Karoline Leavitt was kicked out by a liberal manager. Next day, her husband's Rolls-Royce arrived. Karoline Leavitt wasn't a woman people forgot easily. With her poised confidence, articulate manner of speaking, and striking presence, she commanded attention without needing to raise her voice. A former press secretary turned best-selling author and political commentator, she was used to the spotlight, both its warmth and its harsh glare. She had learned to navigate controversy like a seasoned captain in a stormy sea, balancing truth, diplomacy, and just enough charm to keep her allies close and her critics disarmed. That Friday afternoon was supposed to be uneventful. Karoline had flown into Portland, Oregon, the night before to speak at a conference for free speech advocacy. Her morning had been filled with panels, interviews, and a book signing that ran longer than expected. She needed a break, a moment alone, some caffeine, and a place to recharge before her evening keynote. Her assistant had recommended a small local cafe called Brew and Bloom, a favorite among young professionals and college students in the Arts District. Known for its fair trade coffee, eco-conscious branding, and rotating local art exhibits, the place had a reputation for being socially progressive and community-focused. Karoline wasn't unfamiliar with such spaces. She respected their intent, even if she didn't always agree with the loudest voices they amplified. For her, coffee shops were neutral zones, places of rest, thought, and conversation. She didn't expect politics to follow her into this one. She walked in wearing a simple cream blouse, navy slacks, and a pair of understated pearl earrings. Her presence drew a few glances. She smiled politely, stepped up to the counter, and ordered a lavender honey latte. The young woman behind the counter recognized her almost immediately. "You're Karoline Leavitt, right?" she asked, hesitant. Karoline gave a courteous nod. "Guilty as charged." The barista smiled awkwardly. "I'll get your drink started." But before she could turn, a man emerged from the back. Tall, mid-30s, wearing a tie-dye hoodie and an aggressive expression, he stepped forward and addressed Karoline directly. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said. Karoline blinked. "Excuse me? I know who you are," he continued. "Your views go against everything we stand for here. We're a safe, inclusive space, and we don't serve people who spread hate." The cafe fell silent. Patrons turned, phones subtly raised. The air grew thick with the kind of tension Karoline hadn't felt in years. "I'm just here for coffee," she replied evenly. "Not to start a debate." "That may be, but your presence is enough to make some of our staff uncomfortable," the manager said, folding his arms. Karoline looked around, taking in the stares, the silent judgment. "Very well," she said at last. "I won't stay where I'm not welcome." She turned and walked out without another word. Her steps were measured, her head high. Cameras caught her exit, and within hours, the incident was circulating on social media. Headlines were already spinning. Karoline Leavitt denied coffee over political beliefs. Free speech advocate ejected from cafe promoting tolerance. Some defended the cafe. Others called it hypocrisy. Karoline, for her part, said nothing publicly. She let the storm brew. The next morning, Brew and Bloom opened as usual. The manager, smug from the attention, gave interviews to independent bloggers and live streamers. He claimed it was a small but meaningful act of resistance, that they had a right to refuse service, just as Karoline had a right to her opinions. But as noon approached, something unexpected happened. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up in front of the cafe. Its windows were tinted, its chrome polished to a mirror shine. It idled for a moment before the driver, in a tailored suit, stepped out and opened the rear door. Out stepped Karoline, calm and radiant in a fitted coat the color of snow. Beside her was her husband, Maxwell Grayson, the reclusive tech mogul behind one of Silicon Valley's most influential cybersecurity firms. Maxwell was notoriously private and rarely made public appearances. But today he had chosen to make one. Together, they stood before the glass facade of Brew and Bloom, sipping from to-go cups, from another coffee shop down the street. Karoline smiled gently as she looked inside. The manager, seated at a table with two reporters, stood up abruptly. The entire cafe watched. Maxwell turned to Karoline. "Ready to go?" "Always," she said. Before they stepped back into the car, Karoline took out her phone and tapped a few buttons. The next day, Brew and Bloom received an email from their primary supplier, a company recently acquired by one of Maxwell's many subsidiaries. The supplier was ending their contract due to a conflict of values. Their landlord also reached out, citing a sudden reconsideration of their lease renewal. The manager who had ejected Karoline was quietly let go within the week. Karoline never gloated. She never addressed the event publicly, nor did she disparage the cafe. When asked about it during a podcast interview 2 weeks later, she said only this: "Free speech is about protecting the rights of people you don't agree with. I didn't walk into that cafe to make a statement, but they made one for me." The interviewer asked if she regretted anything. Karoline smiled. "No, but I do hope they've learned the difference between disagreement and danger. It's something we all need to relearn." And with that, she moved on. The moment became a footnote in her story, but one that reminded the world of a simple truth. Civility isn't a political stance. It's a choice.